You're listening to All Country News.
Gosh, so let's chat a little bit more about your upbringing. Growing up in Idaho, what is happening out there? As somebody that grew up in Chicago where everything is always happening, talk to me about growing up in Idaho.
Oh, I mean, growing up in Idaho, I mean, it's just a place, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm I'm actually from a bigger town in Idaho. I mean, Boise is obviously the biggest, and that's in the southern part. I'm from a town called Coeur d'Alene,
Okay.
which is the biggest town in northern Idaho, and we're like 2 hours south of the Canadian border, kind of at the base of the Rockies. But I grew up doing a ton of hunting and fishing, being outside. Obviously I learned to play guitar and stuff, so I spent a lot of time in music as well, but I also, played sports as a kid. And I mean, I'd say that I probably the biggest difference from someone from Chicago might be that I grew up outdoors a ton in like the real, because 15% of the state of Idaho, I believe, is just national forest. So like the majority of the state, especially up here, is a whole lot of no people.
Oh my gosh, that's kind of fun though. So when I think of somebody that maybe is trying to do music, they're growing up in the South or whatever, I feel like you do a lot of playing at bars or at like Mexican restaurants. Like somebody that wants to get their start in Idaho, were you finding yourselves trying to get in similar doors, or where does one kind of try to get their start in Idaho?
Well, I mean, yeah, we played a ton of bars.
Yeah.
I mean, I started playing bars when I was probably 12 or 13. Yeah, you get away with a little bit more in Idaho, especially back when I was growing up. Idaho's gotten a lot bigger since I was a kid too. Especially with like Yellowstone and all the other things that have kind of shown a light on the West. But that being said, yeah, I mean, we played every single honky tonk bar, picnic, whatever we could possibly play. And then kind of as it got more serious, we were still looking for venues. And I'm not going to say that we didn't really make venues, but there was definitely venues that were maybe a little smaller at the time that we were like, hey, listen, like, well, I think we should do this, this, and this. And we kind of grew with them as things kept growing, and they ended up being like staples for us to play at. So you just got to make things work,
I love it. I feel like that's been your attitude since first time I met you. You were a hustler then, you're a hustler now, but I learned something new about you. I didn't know that you were completely self-taught with instruments. Is that correct?
That is not correct.
Oh, it's not correct. Okay.
No, I only had I didn't take very many guitar lessons.
Okay.
I took piano for from the time I was 5 until I was 10. And then I didn't like piano anymore, so I wanted to play drums. It was like my rebellious phase. And so I started taking lessons for drums as well, played drums. And then that's when I had my very first band, is when I was playing drums. I was a lead singer drummer from like 12 to 14. And then around 12, I started learning guitar, and then kind of ended up moving up to the frontman position.
I love that. Well, you're kind of self-taught, so we'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say that I was like oh, look, I just picked it up.
Yeah,
I didn't
prodigy
take
by
a ton
any
of training.
means.
But I'm also I'm not any crazy guitar player either. You know what I mean? I just write songs. That's my thing.
I love it. So I dug up this picture of you that I think still lives on realtor.com. You have no beard. And so talk to me about kind of that path of being in the finance world, being a realtor. And was it clearly just not fulfilling for you? I mean, that's such a fast-paced kind of nose to the grindstone kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think what people forget, I came out of college and my very first job offer was to go work for Merrill Lynch. And I was already selling real estate at the time. And my degree was in economics. And I've always really enjoyed business. I mean, I've worked ever since I was 12. I've had multiple jobs. The very first time I didn't have 4 jobs happening at the same time was when I was 25. Is when I decided to go music full time. So I've always worked really hard, and I feel like I've always had a pretty decent handle on business. And both my parents were in real estate forever, still are. So I got into real estate because I figured, why not? Like it kind of makes sense. Like it's it's the way to do it. And the bridge between music and getting out of white collar for me was I turned down the job to be a stockbroker, and I took a job to be a fly fishing guide. And if I wouldn't have gone into guiding full time, like taking that risk and not caring what people think about that decision, then I don't know if I would have fully like been, comfortable sending it into music full time. But kind of what it taught me was like, you just should do what you want to do and stick to the things that you know that you're good at, and work extremely hard at that. Cause like when I was guiding, like the job was extremely fulfilling, but it wasn't like, it wasn't a cash cow. It wasn't anything crazy. And I worked insane hours. But I loved it. And then same thing with music. Like with music, I have no problem working as much as I do because I love what I do. So I always say I retired at 25 and I just get to do this the rest of my life.
I love that. I love that you went. I love the kind of story from very white collar to blue collar. And I think that really comes across in the new album, Western White Pines, which I'm obsessed with. So what stories are you aiming to tell to your fans with your debut album?
Well, I think there's, starting, I'm going to say I mean, I didn't get like, some people start when they're really young as far as like when they kind of, get their feet wet. And I still would say like when I was 22, when we put out the first record, even when I was 23 and put out If I Were the Devil, like I was still so immature. And like I've always been every record has very well represented like who I am at that point in time. And we put out a record every year. So it's like this perfect little, piece of archaeology of like who I was at that time. I think from 22 to I'm 26 now. So 22 to 25, there was so much confusion on, what did I want to do? Who do I want to be? What does this want to look like? I was trying to figure out who I wanted to be as a man. And I think every year you can hear, I truly thought I knew what I wanted. And I mean, you believe it when you're in the moment for sure. And I don't regret anything that I've done, obviously, or said. That's not the point of what I'm saying. I just think this record is this whole like completion of what I truly landed on. It's like the retrospective of me being like, oh, okay, so this is what it is. It's about where I'm from, who I ended up being, and all the things that are totally okay with past, present, future, whatever. Like it's just, there's I don't know if I'll ever do another piece of like a project that is so personal to me. It's hard to not attach yourself to records, and I feel like I do a good job of not doing that. But this record very specifically, I'm like extremely attached to.
I love it. Can we talk about writing with Lucas Nelson? I'm like floored.
Yeah,
I think
of
I
course.
would have, I don't think I would have said anything. I think I just would have sat there and like been in awe. So talk to me about how you guys met. And then, I mean, helped you write that title track. So kind of walk me through that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I didn't know Lucas was going to be there. So I was supposed to write with a good buddy of mine, Aaron Ratier.
Yep.
And I mean, Aaron was also on the track. Obviously, we've written multiple songs together, and so Aaron calls me. We're supposed to be writing at Warner Chapel in Nashville, and he calls me. He's like, "Hey, just come over to my house. I don't want to go to the big corporate office today." I was like, "All right." So I go to his house. I step in. He's like, "Hey, man, is it cool if my buddy Lucas joins?" I was like, "Yeah, sure. I don't care. Like, we're gonna write on the back patio today. It's whatever." He's like, no, like, yeah, it's like Lucas Nelson. And I was like, "Oh, really? Okay." And I was like, "Yeah, of course." And I mean, I'll tell you this though, Lucas came out and he just said, "Hey man, I'm Lucas. Like, let's sit down." And instant good buddies. I mean, he is so down to earth and such an awesome dude. And he actually, I mean, we were talking about we didn't, because we were a week away from recording the record, and we kind of just wanted like one more song that was like really going to tie it all together. So, we had 30 songs. We didn't have the title track yet. We like had what we thought was going to be the title track and all this stuff, how we thought we were going to work it out. And like, I don't know, I was really missing home. And then I had this realization that when I moved back, or when I went back home this one time, that was the last time I was going to be back home before I moved to Nashville. So it was like kind of my last time of like going back home to be a resident of Idaho. And, so he's like, oh, let's make it about where you're from. And then he just like, Googled it, like Idaho stuff. And he's like, oh, Western White Pines is a state tree. And I was like, yeah, cool. And we just kind of fell on this melody and we wrote the song, and it was truly as soon as we got it done, I was obsessed with it. Lucas was obsessed with it. Aaron was obsessed with it. It is a really good song.
Yeah, I love it. What a fun little like country music magic moment. And I feel like there's so many little magic moments in this whole project, but I noticed a lot of these are solo writes for you. Do you find a lot of solace in writing your own story by yourself instead of having maybe a little bit of outside input that you might have to like work with when maybe you don't want to?
Yeah, I think my biggest thing is like, like I said, I'm a songwriter, and I love writing songs with other people just as much as I enjoy writing them by myself. But what I despise, whether it is from myself or from a co-write, is I hate when a song is being forced into being a song. And so when it gets to that point, I will just pretty much refuse, because I spend my entire life coming up with words, phrases, melodies. It's like all I think about. And you become just so observant about everything because you're just trying to absorb everything so that you can then maybe put it down. And if I come up with a really good line, or if I have a really good story, or if I have something and I just burn it on some song that because we just scheduled a write at 2:00 in the afternoon on a Tuesday, like I'm just not going to do that. And some days it's just not going to work. And some days you just have nothing to say. And when days you have nothing to say, it's way better to go out and go look at life than it is to look at a pen and pad. That's how you get songs. So, and I'm also a quick writer. So like,
Okay.
I was on a plane the other day. I wrote 3 songs on the airplane just in my phone. And it just like, if I'm going to put it down, and then sometimes, actually, this is a good example. So for like Boy and a Bird Dog, that song was about a dog that I had named Molly, and she passed away a couple years ago. And I had the title Boy and a Bird Dog forever, but I didn't know how to write it. Like I couldn't make it sad. I didn't want to make it sad because then I couldn't sing it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to force the song. I was too close to the title. And so I brought it to Ben Chapman and Meg McCree, and that's when we wrote Boy and a Bird Dog. So those are situations where I love having co-writes, So it's kind of I like them both, but they are very separated in my mind.
I love it. I feel like writing with Ben and Meg is like a whole song in itself. Like you could just write a song about those two. They're two of my all-time favorite people. So I love that they are on this record with you. But where do you feel like out of all the tracks, you mentioned that they're all deeply personal, that you love writing by yourself. You love a co-write, but you love writing by yourself too. Which song do you think off the new project best represents where you're at right now?
I think this song, it's the last track on the record. It's called Rolling with the Wind. And the reason why that song, I think, represents where I'm at so well right now is because I wrote it 2 years ago. It was originally written for If I Were the Devil.
Really?
And we didn't put it on, and I've just kept it around, and every year I bring it back up in like I put it back up in the chamber, and I'm like, hey, what do we think? And it obviously did not feel right for Honky Tonk Heaven, so we shelved it again. And then for this record, it was like perfect. It was such a standout, and it came from a point in my life where it was like, I have no idea how this is going to work, but I'm just going to keep doing my thing. And, hopefully future me is at a point where he can appreciate this song. And cutting this record, it was such a full circle moment for me. I mean, in the actual track, it's me, my producer, and a guitar player that are cutting this, and we're cutting it in the control room. And all three of us are crying during the cut that we actually took. So if you actually listen closely, you can actually hear my breathing is like really, and like really trying to control it, but it's like super wavery. So it's a really special moment. The song is really important to me. And I definitely think looking back, it's the one that I am attached to.
I know you went from doing stocks to like chopping wood for social activations. I mean, what a turn of events you had. But I'm going to be selfish. My favorite song off the new record might be Better Man. And it's so funny that you bring up the fact that, you know what I mean? It's everything seems full circle, because you say in this one, if I could send a letter back in time, I'd address it to an 8-year-old boy who looked up at the stars at night. Is that how you feel kind of right now?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I feel that way. I feel like, yeah, especially when writing that song, it was all about me just being like all these issues and everything, it's very human, obviously. Like everybody has these massive, whatever vices and things that they do in their lives that they wish they could change. And every single thing that typically people hold on to, especially as adults, are things that when you were a child, you despised or you hated. And in your naivety, you were told that these are terrible things and you should never do these things. And so you, as a child, you idolize things that are perfect. And then as you get older, you start to idolize things that are completely imperfect and honest and amazing. Like that's kind of the contrast of the song. And so, yeah, I mean, the letter, like I had the 2 verses that were like, oh, look at me. Like, I wish I was better than this. And so the third verse definitely, I think, ties it all together in me basically telling, the youth of myself that it's okay. Like, this is the reality of life, and honesty of like addressing the fact that, you're hoping to be that thing that you idolize as a child, but it's life and things happen. And, obviously, yeah, I mean, the last line of that is, you're born to run. It's in your blood. I think you'll be fine. I think that's like really the key there.
I love it. So you've had the opportunity to play out some of these songs and really kind of gain a whole new fan base, whether it be with Flatland Calvary. I know you were just doing stuff with Whiskey Jam and Luke Combs. So what has surprised you the most about the response to your new songs, and just, you as an artist in general, by your fans?
Well, I mean, number one, I think the craziest part of this year has just been the fact that, we've had such an isolated touring schedule for so long. And then this year we finally get to like go out and, do the nationwide thing. And what I've realized is that we have such amazing fans. I mean, the fans that have been with us from the beginning are still there, and they're in every town that we're playing in. And it's whether it's a headline date or it's with Flatland or it's whatever. We've had people drive over 10 hours to watch our sets multiple times. I mean, and the other thing that we do, I mean, every night after the show, I'm at the merch table. I go out every single night. I try to meet as many people as I possibly can. I mean, the fact that they are coming to our shows means I can walk the 100 feet to the merch table. If they travel that far, I mean, that's really what's important to me as well. But definitely the most mind-blowing thing was we went and played. It was in February when we were out with 49 Winchester. And the night before our very first show with 49, we played our very first headlining show in Newport, Kentucky. And I think it was like 100 cap room. It's a small room. And we sold like 15 tickets. And I was just like, well, this is going to be a tough run. Like, this run is going to suck for us. We're going to have to be like really battling, making new fans. No one's going to know who we are down here. So we're just going to have to, bite the bullet. And thank God we're with 49 Winchester. And then the next night we're 49 at the Loud in Huntington, West Virginia. And it's like 10 minutes before we go on. And I forgot something on stage. I think it was like, I forgot to change the batteries, my battery pack for my guitar. And my keys player was like, oh, I'll run out on stage and grab them for you. And I was like, no, dude, I'll go out there. No one knows who I am. It's fine.
Yeah.
So I walked out on stage, not super intelligent. I walked out on stage and I'm like getting my batteries and stuff. And I look out, it's just sold out room. So it's just like to the gills, as packed as it could possibly be. And it's just quiet. There's like no house music. Like people are just like looking at me. And then some guy in the back is like, it's Colby. And it just starts going crazy, like crazy. And then I walked back in and I was like, okay, I was very wrong. People definitely know who we are. And that we came out on stage and started. And ever since that show, basically everyone has sang almost every word to every song. It's just been so unbelievable. And the people that we've been out with have also been so great to be with.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I am so excited for you. Hopefully we will catch you on tour. We will be one of the 10-hour drivers to come and see you. But thank you so much. It's been so fun watching you just completely explode in a good way.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, it's good to see you again. I'm bummed we missed you in Chicago, but we'll catch you next time.
I know. I feel like everything always happens at the same time, but then this gives me an excuse to come and see you somewhere else. But yeah, I'm sure it'll be sooner than later. So congrats on everything. And thank you for taking the time today. We're really excited for you.
Thank you. It's good to see you again.
Awesome. Good to see you. We'll chat with you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
You're listening to